Before we jump into today's show, I've got a really exciting announcement to make. The autumn cohorts for Start Your Podcast group program are now open. There are 5 dates between September and October, and it's a 6-week program that will get you launched before Christmas. So if podcasting was on your to-do list this year, if you really want to get your podcast up and done by the end of 2023, then come and join me for one of those cohorts and let's make it happen. I have a free masterclass available for you called Understanding the Power of Podcasting. You can go over to donnaeade.com/masterclass, watch the masterclass and get access to that enrollment. I hope to see you in one of the autumn cohorts very soon. That's donnaeade.com/masterclass. Let's get back to the show. You're listening to the Wedding Procast UK, the place to be if you are a UK wedding professional looking to grow and streamline your business. I'm your host, Donna Eade, 10-year wedding photography veteran and CEO at the Society of Professional Wedding Vendors. If you want to grow and streamline your business, this is the podcast for you. Make sure you hit subscribe where you listen or join our email list at www.spwv.co.uk. You'll find the sign up form at the bottom of every episode, and by doing so, you won't miss a thing. So let's jump into today's show. Today we have Nicky Fish with us. She is from Polka Dot Creations Design Studio and she creates luxury bespoke wedding stationery for the style-conscious couple looking for save-the-dates, invitations and on-the-day stationery. She has over 10 years experience in the industry and today she is on the show to share some of that experience with us and tell us why she loves working in this fantastic industry. Hi Nicky, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Donna, thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you on. So Nicky is one of the Society of Professional Wedding Vendors members, and we're going to talk a bit about that later. But I brought Nicky on because she is a wedding stationer and a very good one at that. And she creates some beautiful, beautiful invitations, banners, and goodness knows what else. She's going to tell us a little bit about that in a second. But I wanted to just kind of bring you her story and let you sort of see from a different perspective what the wedding industry looks like. So we all kind of work in our own niches, photographers, cake makers, stationers, planners, etc. And we don't always see from other people's views what wedding days look like. So I thought it would be great to have different people on from different industries to talk about their experience of the wedding industry. So we will get into it. So Nicky, can you just give us a little bit of an introduction? Let us know how you got started in your business.
Yeah, so I set up Polka Dot Creations just over 10 years ago now. I was on maternity leave with my youngest and a friend of my sister-in-law happened to see a place card that I'd actually created for our wedding. My sister-in-law had it out on display because she loved it so much. It was actually quite unusual. It was a skeleton leaf place card. And this friend of hers was getting married and asked if I would mind doing some for her wedding. So I said, I was on maternity leave. I said, yep, no problem at all. And she then asked, oh, can you do me some invitations to match, do you think? So I said, yeah, I've never done that before, but yep, that's no problem. I've always been creative. I did art A-level. I'd loved anything sort of stationery wise. So I'd obviously done my own wedding and I did some for my brother's wedding. But that's how it started sort of professionally, I suppose, and charging people for that sort of thing. And then similarly, a friend of my husband's, they were getting married. So it just started off with friends and family initially. And I then did that for a couple of years, just I suppose part-time because I still had very young children. And then I actually did go back to my office job for a couple of years. Just missed the stationery so much and creating the creativity. So probably must be at least 5 years ago now, set up full-time wedding stationer for myself. Loved it ever since. I would, definitely not now. It's lovely, yeah.
I love that. And I think that is actually a story that a lot of wedding vendors can relate to, because I think it is kind of known as a female dominated industry and it is generally mums that are at home. And I think that's what we had some of that sort of backlash of it being the hobby industry and hobbyists being in it, which kind of really wound me up back last year when COVID first hit and, all of those sort of force majeure and when all the contract issues were coming out and stuff like that. But the fact is that even though some people start out with that kind of, it was something that you fell into rather than it was like a strategic business decision. But once you got into it, you took it very seriously. And I think because you started with your own wedding and you did that for your own wedding, you knew the time and effort that it took you to do that. It wasn't like you then took on this lady's wedding with some sort of idea that it was going to be some quick money. You knew the effort you had to put in.
Yes, yeah. And with it being so creative, you have to love what you do, because anything that's sort of arty, creative, you put so many hours into that. And don't, I suppose, really get back what you think it's worth, really. But it's the love of it, you just really, really enjoy. And then when I did come into it properly, I suppose 5 years ago, that's when I then started courses to help my knowledge and actually be able to do more graphic design work rather than just the hand embellished, which I started with. I just felt that I needed to improve myself and have some sort of qualifications behind me to prove that I was worth what I was charging, and being able to charge for quality stationery, which is what I wanted to produce. So I felt I needed those courses to help me.
Yeah, well, we should talk a little bit about those later on as well. So can you sort of talk to me about what it is that, obviously, because you've got that where you went back to the day job and you were pulled away. What are the things that you absolutely love about working in the wedding industry?
I mean, it's a lovely industry to work in. I mean, the sort of people that you come across in the industry are generally lovely, but it's more the clients that I work with and the feedback that I get from them once I've completed their stationery. It just makes it all so worthwhile, just knowing that you've helped that much with an important part of their day. I think stationery is often overlooked. I know when people are setting out their wedding budget, stationery is probably not top of the list, and they think about all the bigger things and the bigger expense, I suppose. But it does give such an important aspect and element to the day, because you can, if you have a floral wedding, that can give such a different effect than if you're having a contemporary.
It shows a lot of it's like a window, isn't it, into what the wedding's going to be like. So the wedding invitation is everybody's first impression of what the wedding day is going to be. So by having something that is tailor-made to their wedding, they're really sort of putting a statement out there. This is what you can expect from my day, and it can really just pull in and tie everything in, can't it?
Yeah, exactly. If you're having a wedding in a barn, for example, a rustic wedding, then your stationery needs to reflect that. So your guests will see that from the very beginning, that's the style that you're going for, and that they know roughly what to expect. But then to also tie it in on the day, so your stationery for your tables, place cards, table plan, will then tie in with that theme that you've already started, that the guests have seen. So we'll see that continuity running through the day, which is a really important part, and gives it just makes the way the wedding feels, you can have such a different air depending on the stationery that you use and the style you use.
I think it is such a string for the wedding, as it were, because it literally can weave through the whole entire process from beginning to end. And post-wedding with the thank you card. So you just have this, it's one of those things that can just really bring it all together. And I think it's so important. It just elevates the wedding to have something that ties in the theme of the day and is a continuous. And like you said, you do the table plans and things like that. So like even the big boards that we have that's got the tables on it, and that design's carried through.
Yeah, exactly. So that will tie in with your invitation. I think a lot of the guests will notice that as well. They'll obviously remember the invitation, but probably take it with them because they need to know the venue details. And so they'll see that straight away. They'll see that that's the guests, the couple have actually thought about that, and that they're conscientious, and that they want, like you say, that little bit of luxury, because it is when you have everything matching and to tie in with your theme. It's and fully personalized to you. So most of my designs are bespoke. So we go through the things that they want to include. They may have a Pinterest board or mood board that they've put together, or I can help them with that, and then we come up with a design that's bespoke to them, and run that right through the day. So it's really it's lovely that I can help people with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely think it's such an important part that people do overlook. And it's one of those things that sometimes people might get somebody to do their wedding invitations, but then they don't think about the on the day stuff, and they might get somebody else to do their on the day stuff or do it themselves. And then the thank you cards might be different again. And it's just kind of disjoints the day. So I think to have the whole thing by one person is a much better idea. So how do you broach that with your clients? Is it something that you kind of lay out at that initial meeting, that this is everything that I can do and we can build something around what you need? Or do you kind of wait to see what they're thinking and drop it in at a later date that you can do that? How do you work?
I mentioned that initially. So whenever we have the first consultation, we'll talk about generally save the dates and invites first, because that's what they're coming to me for. But I will always mention the fact that I do matching items for on the day as well. And normally once the invites are finished, then we'll pretty much talk quite quickly about getting a deposit put together for all the items they need for on the day, and we actually get that booked in with a deposit so that we can then secure the spots. Depending on, each timeline's different. Some people have their invites a year in advance, some people it's only 3 months before the wedding. So yeah, timeline's always different for each couple, but it's always mentioned just for that reason, really, that to have that continuity, and the fact even to the point where I'll choose the exact same card that I'm using for the invites will be used. So if it's a textured card, it will be used then for on the day instead of pearlescent for one and textured for the other. It just, we need to tie that in. So for me to know that in advance is useful, so I can book it in. So yeah, it's always mentioned when we first start consultation, really.
Brilliant.
They appreciate that as well, because like you say, a lot of them haven't even thought about on the day at that stage. And some don't even realise that I do that, because they may have just seen a quick Instagram post with an invite on it. So yeah, I need to mention that straight away, just to let them know that I can help them with everything right through for on the day as well.
Yeah,
I do appreciate that. But on the other hand, I sometimes get people come to me who have already had their invitations completed and gone out, and they just come from the day stationery. In which case, I always ask if they can send me a copy of their invite, just so I know what sort of styles gone out, what the guests have already seen. Because like you say, you don't want it to be too disjointed and too different to the main invitation. So yeah, we always try and tie in if we can as close as possible. But yeah, it's much better if I deal with the whole thing, then I even use the same card, and yeah, it's much better.
Yeah. And you have a lovely studio that you work from at home, which you are currently sitting in, I can see. How much of the work actually happens on premises, and what sort of things do you sort of farm out? Because I'm assuming a lot of the printing happens externally, but you tell me, what is it that you do at home, and what do you farm out?
Yeah, I do have printers here. I've got a LaserJet and an inkjet printer, and I do, if it's pretty much quite plain text, for example, if it's a handmade card where I've got plain text being attached to like a silver glitter backing, for example, then I print all those in-house myself. But if it's a digital graphic design style design with lots of florals, very detailed, very bright colours, then I always generally outsource that. Mainly because the printers that I outsource to can have a much thicker card, and I like a really quality card. Whereas the ones I print in-house, they're being attached to a very thick backing card anyway, so you don't notice the fact that it's slightly thinner. So yeah, I use a bit of both, but I suppose at the moment most of my designs are probably more digitally graphic design than the hand embellished ones. So and things like I now also offer printing on acrylic and mirrors, which obviously I can't do in-house, so that's all designed in-house and then outsourced to a specialist printing company. So yeah, a bit of both, really.
And I love the acrylic stuff that you started doing. I saw a little video that you did on those, and they look absolutely amazing. But I guess with that in mind, then you work with, I know you sort of focus on the luxury end of things, but I'm guessing that because you work bespoke, you can work with pretty much all budgets. It'll just be dependent on the quality of the papers and things like that they're going to get for the budget.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Obviously, the acrylics and the mirrors, they're higher end of the budget, just simply for, the cost of the materials is way higher than if it was just a card, for example. But if somebody is looking, does have a particular budget in mind, or quite a lower end of the budget, then we can still use maybe the same floral decorative element that we would have used on an acrylic, but we can just put it on a card, like a concertina fold card, for example, wrapped with just a paper or vellum belly band, which will be a lot more cost effective, but still give the same effect, still have the same sort of design with it. but just tailored to their budget, really. So yeah, there's obviously a limit. I mean, you do see some stationers on Facebook pages that are offering to do invites for 50p an invite, and there's no way I couldn't even buy the materials for that, so I don't know how they're doing it. Obviously they're using a much thinner card than I am, I guess. So there is a limit, obviously.
There is all sorts of things that go on with that, and I think I've spoken about that before, and it is probably going to be an upcoming episode where I'll talk about pricing again. But it's something that a lot of people come into the industry and they don't know what they should be pricing themselves at. So they just pluck numbers out of the air and think that's okay. And they're going along fine for a little while. And then actually when they come to doing their sort of profit and loss and doing your taxes at the end of the year, you realize, oh, well, my goodness, I haven't made any money at all because I've been undercharging. And it's a shame because a lot of these people do beautiful work. I see a lot of beautiful work and I see the prices they're charging. I'm thinking you're not going to be in business in a year's time because you cannot sustain a business at those costs. So
no, I mean, when I first started, I was obviously very new. I've never run a business before, had no real business experience, I suppose, but I do love a spreadsheet. So I used to,
me too.
Yeah, I used to list every single item for each design, work out what it cost me, and then obviously put an hourly rate on, well, the hourly rate I would like to be charged, and then work it out from there, really. So yeah, even though I wouldn't say I'm naturally business minded, I knew I had to make a profit at the end of the day, something. So yeah, and obviously when you first start out, my prices were lower then than they are now, but I've got much more experience now. Obviously got the graphic design courses behind me and things like that. So you need to charge for that, really, to value your worth.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually talking about, new people into the industry and stuff, I thought you could give some tips to people who are maybe listening to this podcast and thinking that they want to get into the wedding industry. And it could be that they're getting into any of the areas of the wedding industry, or somebody who is specifically sort of looking at stationery as an option for them to get into. What would you say are sort of tips that either things that you would have liked to have known before you started in business, or things that you think people should know before they start?
Yes, I think in the wedding industry in general, something that I've not done until quite recently is take part in style shoots, which I think are a fantastic opportunity for getting amazing photographs of whatever you do. If you're a cake maker, you're a florist, dressmaker, whatever, style shoots are amazing because you come together as a team. But most of them you don't have to pay. You have to give up your time, and obviously if you're a cake maker, you don't have to provide the cake. But the photos you get back and that you can use on your social media, websites, and they even a lot of the time get published into really big wedding blogs. So the advertising that you get from that is just amazing. So that would definitely be something I wish I'd done earlier, because I've definitely helped me these last couple of years since I've been doing them.
It's great for exposure, absolutely great for exposure, because what you find with styled shoots is that the people on those shoots will all be sharing pictures, and if they are doing it well, they tag everybody that is in that image, whether it's a stationery, a place setting on a table, the florist, if the bride's in there, the dress, the model, the hairstylist, the makeup artist. So everybody gets tagged, and that can happen multiple times because people don't tend to just share one image from the shoot. They'll share multiple images across a timeline. So you're getting those hits every time somebody shares an image. And yeah, if you're getting into any of those big wedding blogs, then your name's going to be tagged in that wedding blog as well, and that stays there. So anybody searching for, depending on what the wedding style was, but if you did a shoot that was kind of a rustic barn wedding and somebody types in rustic barn weddings and looks at that blog, your name's going to be there. So it's absolutely invaluable free advertising.
Any of these big wedding blogs are going to have a way higher domain authority than my little website. So that's a retreat. If they're searching for rustic barn wedding, that's bound to come up before I do, but you're going to get noticed because your name's in there. Right. So
yeah, that's a great tip.
And I suppose as well, particularly if you're coming into as a stationer, using things like, there are Facebook groups specifically for stationers, and they're great for advice and for getting help with things or sourcing things. If there's a particular card that you normally source from a supplier and they're out of stock, does anyone know the exact same colour elsewhere? So that really helps as well. and sort of networking with others within the industry, within other stationers. I think often people think that of them almost as competition, but I don't at all. I think there's enough wedding couples out there looking for stationery. We're all in different areas. We've all got different styles. So it's, we're not a competition. I'm in a group with quite a few stationers, and we regularly help each other out. We'll share where we get things printed. And I don't see them as competition. So I think, don't always think of others in your industry as competition. Think of them as collaborators. You can help each other.
I love that. That's so good. That's one of the things that I've struggled to learn myself, I suppose. It is one of those things where you do kind of get a bit, secretive and possessive over your stuff. Like, you don't want to give this away because what if somebody else finds out, and things like that. But I love that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I feel that actually, the more you can help people be better at what they do, the better that is for you. Because if they get better at what they do, they can raise their prices, which means that if you're better at what you can raise your prices and you can be where you need to be. Whereas if everybody is kind of, keeping everything to themselves and not helping each other out, then the people that come into the industry and don't get any help and don't really understand business and don't understand what they should and shouldn't be doing are going to be undercutting you, and people are going to go to them and people are going to get let down, and the quality is not going to be great. And, all of these things are going to negatively affect the end user, which is our couples, which nobody ever wants them to have any bad experiences with vendors. But also it brings that part of the industry down. So if you've got somebody who's doing, invites for 50p, and then they let a bride down because actually they couldn't get their stock in for that much, and then they get, can't be bothered to do it because they realize they're not making any money out of it, or whatever it is, that reflects badly on that area of the industry and gives you guys a bad name. So I think anything you can do to help and elevate with that growth mindset and that, collaborative mindset is such a plus for the industry. So I absolutely love that you said that. That's a great tip. Any more for any more?
I think just about putting your face out there, really. I think when I first started, like especially with social media, I never ever put any pictures of me on at all. Hated it. Whenever I do put an image of me on, like me maybe making something, or it gets so many more likes and comments than any other image, just a picture of my invites or my table plans. So I think people do buy from people. So you need to get your face out there so that people feel they're more comfortable to contact you because they know what you look like, they know what you sound like if you do maybe lives or little videos. So it's definitely helped me get business in by being more out there, I suppose, putting my face out there.
I think especially in the wedding industry as well, it is such a personable industry. We're working with so many different people that you do want to be able to like the people that you're working with. So I'm much more likely to go to a vendor who I've heard speak on social media and kind of have an idea of their personality and who they are, what they love about what they do, and I've heard it in their voice. Much more likely to go to somebody who's done that than somebody that only shares images of their stuff and I don't know what they look like, what they sound like. That actually makes me more nervous. I'm like one of these people that I don't like to speak to people on the phone most of the time. I think it's my generation actually that we were the starting of texting.
Yeah.
When I was 16 was when I got my first mobile phone, and we always text each other. And then it is like literally there's some of my friends that if you ring them, they will not answer the phone because they just speak on the phone. So we're kind of that generation, and it's especially when it's people you don't know that are ringing you, you're like, oh, I don't want to answer that. So for me to pick up the phone and ring somebody is a real big deal. So to feel like I know them in some way would make me much more comfortable and confident in picking up the phone and making that phone call.
I think, one good thing, if we can say a good thing that's come out of COVID, is the fact that Zoom and video has become so much more used, and I feel so much more confident now doing a Zoom call. I'd never done a video consultation before COVID, ever. Obviously people to the studio, one-on-one consultations here, but I didn't even know how to use video, I don't think, before COVID. So one good thing is that now I've done, I can't remember how many, I've done so many. And if people see you face to face, it's so much, because a lot of the time before I would just, if they couldn't come to the studio, we'll just have emails backwards and forwards, and it's just not the same. You need to have interaction. And so the video has helped if they're not local and can't come to the studio. That's helped so much, definitely. So one good thing that's come out this year.
It's definitely a good thing to be visible in your business. So I love that you say that as a tip. It's a really good point. And now I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about these courses, because I'm a big believer in education, and I know you are too, because I've heard of what you've been doing over sort of the last 12 months especially. But for me, when I founded the Society of Professional Wedding Vendors, it was one of those things I wanted people to continually be looking to improve and grow. And teacher training days happen for a reason, because teachers are constantly learning new methods and new skills to teach our children. Hairdressers, if they don't go and do courses on the new and latest cuts, then they're going to be out of style, and they're only going to be serving a certain proportion of the country with hairstyles going forward. So there is always this need to upgrade, and for me that was a big component in the society. So it's one of those things that I want to help our members with, is finding courses that they can do. But we do have education with inside the society on the business side of things, because I think that is one of the areas where a lot of wedding industry people struggle, because they come into it because they love what they do and they love the creative side. And as we said earlier, business is not always top of mind.
No.
So what are the sorts of things that you have done sort of since you started, and then what are the things that you were focusing on last year that you were doing?
Okay, so yeah, when I started full-time 4 or 5 years ago, knowing that I wanted to also concentrate on graphic design styles rather than just the hand embellished, I undertook 2 graphic design courses, a diploma in graphic design and advanced diploma in graphic design, which helped massively. I knew the basics. I had, in a former employment, I had worked with the Adobe suite a little bit, but not much at all. So yeah, that sort of really helped with that. And I've also done sort of sales courses to help with my selling skills, which weren't great at all. That definitely helped as well, and helped me feel more confident in selling. I think it's something that I've never been that confident doing. And I think because like I say, if you're a creative, you love the creative side of it, but it's then knowing how to get that across to people in the right way and showing the value of it, how it's going to help them.
It's almost the clothes part of it. I think it's what I found is, like, I could talk about photography all day and how we would pose it and the excitement of how we would do everything, and then I would kind of fall down. So I could sell the experience, but it was the closing it to actually get them to put the deposit down that I would be like,
talking about the money side of it. It's just I was very, it wasn't me at all. But so this course has definitely helped with that. I think, I've definitely seen an increase in the amount of leads that are converting to sales. So that's good. And then obviously with COVID, initially all weddings did a bit of a nosedive. I've always done a little bit of business stationery, like corporate stationery. So I then decided to concentrate more on that because, weddings weren't going ahead. So, I did another course to do with branding. So rather than just logo design, it's a bit more in depth, so more about branding and that sort of thing. So I've now got sort of 2 arms of the business. That's, even though now weddings are coming back and I'm starting to get busy again, the business side of it has stayed busy as well. So I've sort of got 2 arms to the business really. But definitely still the weddings that's my priority. But at least I've got that to fall back on should anything else happen again with the wedding industry. And another one I've just literally just started is website based, so SEO, search engine optimization based, so that I can, because my website, I don't get masses through my website. It's more Instagram and Facebook where most of my business comes from. But I'm wanting to switch that, and to do, I know I need to do more blog posts and things like that to get your SEO words in there. So that's another one. I just love learning. I think that, like I say, we can always learn something new. Even if you're an expert in your field, there's always something new coming out. And the SEO is never finished. It's an ongoing thing. So the more help you get for that, the better.
And I think that is so important for everybody to understand, is that what you have just described there was kind of a very well-rounded education. It wasn't, okay, I'm going to do wedding stationery, so graphic design and, doing a calligraphy course. It's not all focused on what you're doing with your stationery. It's actually very well-rounded. You did some sales training, which is worth its weight, in my opinion. So doing that helps you to sell the stuff that you love to do. And doing this SEO training, again, it's one of those things that I think people don't put as much value on, because they don't see it as where their money comes from. You know, your money comes from making an invitation and selling it. So they don't think about the website and actually that being part of the funnel. So I think it's a very good thing for you to have done. And I think it's going to help your business greatly. And I think it's a great thing for people to hear, because they hear you're investing in your business and yourself by doing that. And I think it will do good things for you. So I'm really pleased to hear that. And you are one of our absolutely lovely members in the society. So we do need to just touch on that a little bit. So obviously, for those of you who are new to the podcast, the Wedding Procast UK used to be the Society of Professional Wedding Vendors podcast, but I changed the name because the podcast is for everybody, not just members. So we changed the name, and now the society supports the podcast. And the society is for all wedding vendors based in the UK who supply to couples for their wedding day, whatever it is that you supply. If you supply it to a couple for a wedding day, then you are eligible to be a member. And Nicky is one of our founding members. So Nicky, can you talk to us a little bit about how you found the society and what it was that made you join?
Yes, I think it was just over a year ago, pretty much beginning of lockdown, I think, when I first started seeing your adverts on Facebook, I believe. I think that's where I first saw your details. And yeah, I'd never come across you before, but just really was quite intrigued and interested to find out more. So I think I contacted you. And yeah, I just felt that I wanted to be able to demonstrate to clients that I was reliable, because like you say, when people come across your website or your Facebook page, they don't know you from Adam. They don't know, what sort of a supplier you are, whether you can be trusted. And to be able to display that badge on my website, I just thought it would be so valuable. And I really do think it's helped. I've had that on my website since pretty much I first joined. And yeah, the fact that obviously you spotlight me on the social media channels, I think that really helps a lot as well. So yeah, it's just something that I wanted to be a part of. I could see what you were trying to do and the value that could add to a business like mine. So yeah, so glad that I joined. Yeah, and I didn't realise as well, apart from that, all the different training and education opportunities and masterclasses that you've got within the group as well, which are fantastic. Yeah, like I say, I love learning anyway, so to be able to go through those, and even if you can't catch them live, you can catch them on replay later. It's just just brilliant. There's lots of resources within the group. It's great.
Yeah, and that's what I love about it as well, is that I wanted to be able to show couples, vendors who were in it for the right reasons. And that was always one of my big things when I saw things go wrong in front of my very eyes on wedding days, which, just broke my heart for couples, when you see a cake that's falling to pieces and it's only just arrived, let alone, have a pitch taken of it before it collapses. DJs that don't turn up. Not that that's a multiple. There was only one DJ who didn't turn up. He was a very bad man. And we never use him again. There's just things like that shouldn't happen. And I wanted to attract vendors who wanted to be in the industry for the right reasons, because they value what they do and value how special a wedding day is to a couple and how important getting everything right is. And there are always things that are out of our control. And when you think about a wedding day, there's literally could be 15 to 20 different industries working one single wedding day. And a lot of couples do that without a planner. And all of those moving parts, there is so much room for error on the one day when you don't want anything to go wrong. So it is so important that those vendors are in it for the right reason and understand that how important their element of the day is and how important it is for it to go smoothly. So I appreciate you saying that, because it means that I'm doing what I planned to do, what I hoped to do. So that's great. So thank you so much for coming on the show and telling us a little bit about your business and your experience in the wedding industry, Nicky. Where can people find you if they'd like to come and see some of your beautiful work?
Thank you. So my website is www.polka.creations.co.uk, or on Facebook and Instagram, my handle is Polka Dot Creations Wedding. It's got the word wedding on the end of it. So they're the main routes really, and all my contact details are on there.
Yeah, so they will all be in the show notes, guys. So if you are on the Society website, you can go to the Wedding Procast UK tab on the menu, and this episode will be there for you to see the show notes, and all the links will link directly to Nicky's channels for you to go and have a look. And she is definitely up for any more collaborations. So anybody doing style shoots out there, get in touch.
Thank you.
All right, my lovely. Thank you so much, everybody. We will see you again next week. Goodbye for now. Don't forget to hit those stars and leave a review of the podcast where you listen if you found value in what you heard today. It's a free way you can help the podcast reach more people just like you.